After playing competitively for the last few years, I figured it's about time I bring back to the community, and that's why I'm working with AirTac Customs to bring you guys a build based on my own experience and recommendations. I carefully selected all the parts you see in front of us. We're gonna make this available on the website later this summer. The idea of this 3-part series is to create a build guide for any beginner or intermediate players that might need a little bit more help and knowledge on and off the field. For today's video, we're just gonna work on the upper receiver, which will consist of the hop up, the bucking, inner barrel, and of course, and last but not least, the carbon upper receiver itself. So let's get started. Right in front of me, I have a few items here just to complete the entire upper receiver setup with the carbon AirTac Customs upper receiver, the Max Hop Up and AirTac Customs collaboration, which does come in all black, so nice, and the maple leaf bucking, followed by the Lambda 128mm inner barrel. With all these items here, it's going to be a pretty brief and simplistic build. What I actually like about this entire setup here is that the newer Gen 3 carbon uppers come with this newer bag that's pretty much simplistic for traveling. If I were you, I would just use this, save it, whatever. If you travel by plane or need to take it apart or whatever, this is going to be your best friend, especially when you have a whole entire setup, so that way it doesn't get dirty, squished, or whatever, broken into. It doesn't matter. This is going to come in handy. Of course, this is going to come with 2 options for green and red fiber optics. You can definitely mix and match, or you can use one solid color. In this case, I'm going to use green. Taking it out of the bag, you already see that not only it has front sights, but also back sights, which is going to be pretty nice. Another unique quality of this Gen 3 upper is that it has 2 windows on the side to view your rotary hop up, which is essentially just going to be the max one that you're going to be using. And that way, if you shoot left, right-handed, you'll have an easier time adjusting your hop up and just kind of being able to play better on the field. Now, another thing to note is I am using a 128mm barrel just because for me as a front or mid player, it's a little bit more easier for me to maneuver between barriers instead of it getting clunky. To me, this is very light, it's very sleek. I can get around barriers easy with this length and I don't have any issues. Just kind of taking a brief look, you see that there's the newer generation Max Hop Up. The collaboration with AirTac Customs is so nice and sleek, especially with that all black color. A few things I do want to know is that there were adjustments to the bottom here. Previously, with the other editions of the Max Hop Up, there were some issues with feeding with specific mid caps. They went ahead and fixed that with a newer lever there. And then on the back here, you can definitely adjust the size plate here on the back if you have different size nozzles and everything. Last but not least, we do have a few things here like the wings. Kind of set up with the width of your hop up depending on the upper receiver that you use, so that way it has a snug fit. So with the options that we have here, because I am using the maple leaf macro and bucking, I am going to use the soft nub tensioner to make it work a little bit more efficiently. What's cool about Max is that they do include some tools, so I have a very small hex key to kind of take out the little pin and the little Allen screw at the top here to remove the hop up arm and the nub tensioner. The nub tensioner right here at the top. First and foremost, I am going to unscrew this top part here so that way I'm able to remove the pin, and then I can remove the arm right here and then the entire tensioner. So make sure you put it on a nice safe space where it doesn't fall at all. So now that I have the tensioner parts that I need, I'm just gonna carefully place these all together and then install it into my hop up here. Just kind of based off the instructions, if I just can get that focused in there, you can kind of see that the hop up nub, the soft nub, is actually in there. So I'm just going to keep this on the side for now and actually do the inner barrel bucking assembly, which will be followed up with the rest of the Max Hop Up installation here. So far so good. So far we just have the Max Hop Up and I do have the soft nub in there. It was a pretty quick installation. Next I'm just going to go ahead and get the inner barrel and bucking set up together, and then we're going to follow it up with the rest of the Max Hop Up installation. This is all just the bread and butter, guys. I mean, if you understand, take the time, take the patience for everything, get the knowledge down, you'll have a lot more fun that way once you understand what's wrong with your stuff when you're on and off the field. Next step is actually going to be pretty simple. You have the inner barrel and bucking right here. All you got to do is just put it together, but before you do, you have to apply at least some silicone paste onto it to keep everything nice and lubricated. You don't want your stuff going in dry because that's going to be the worst thing for you on the field. Do a little bit of a thin coating of silicone paste here, and that's just going to be right above this little hole here where the nub would sit. So I'm just going to do a very thin coating right there with the Q-tip. That's going to be nice and lubricated there. Next step, I'm gonna actually follow it up with the bucking into the inner barrel. And this is gonna be pretty simple because the little nub that you see on the inside of the bucking there, that's actually gonna follow along the line of this inner barrel. So it's gonna be pretty simple. You're just gonna wanna match those up together. Should just be an easy fit. So I'm also gonna follow it up with another little bit of lubricant for this bottom half here. On the actual bucking, you don't wanna go surpass that. You just wanna have it on this bottom half here. Now with everything nice and lubricated, we can go ahead and actually install it into the hop-up itself. Now, the easiest way I'm gonna go about this, you already installed the bucking onto your inner barrel. You're gonna find that little groove that you found earlier to help you install the bucking, and that's gonna be the opposite end of where we want it to be for where the nub is gonna create that tension. We're just gonna use this as a guideline to kind of place it upward like that and just place it nice and smooth. Don't have to create too much tension, and just make sure it's in all the way just like that. And then we're gonna go ahead and get our clasp here and go ahead and install that. All right, so when you install this little C clasp here, you're gonna have to try to follow along with the grooves of the size itself. So that way it'll be a little bit more easier to install until you hear that actual click. Once you get that C clasp in there, it's supposed to fit nice and flush within the actual hop up itself, so you don't see it coming out the top there. You know you done it right once you hear that clicking sound. Next, I'm gonna follow it up with this little seal here, or this little O-ring clasp here, and that's gonna help create that seal. And then this little O-ring, which I am gonna finish that off with, is gonna help create and solidify that seal just a bit more and make sure that everything is nice and snug. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put that over and bring it back all the way toward the front there. So now that you're all finished, you're gonna go ahead and make it all flush and everything, and boom, you've already assembled your hop up. You can kind of see that when I adjust the rotary here, you see that the nub is actually going into the bucking itself, giving you the ability to adjust the settings as you like. So now that we completely finished the entire hop up setup here, it's going to be nice and easy. We're not actually going to install this little spring here, but it's not going to be really necessary for this entire setup because the tension spring here is actually going to move up and down. There's nothing that's going to be holding this back, so there's really no purpose for it. Instead, I have seen people with these carbon uppers get at least multiple O-rings to kind of create that stability and tension that you need to keep everything nice and snug. That's already adjusted and well fit for the newer upgrades that are coming out on the market today. So those O-rings, I've seen people run 3 or 4 and they kind of come up like at least 1/4 of an inch. I'm not much of a tech, but that's what I've been told. I still have to break down the science and actually view that myself or with another technician to verify that. But again, this is what we have. Now this is gonna be the most easiest thing because we are gonna use the fiber optics and we're gonna install that at the front and at the back here. And that's pretty much the only thing we got left to do. So because we have 2 versions of red and green fiber optics, I'm gonna actually just pick the green version because I feel like green is a little bit cleaner, and I honestly like the green because it reflects nicely off the interior lighting in like an indoor field or something like that. So I'm gonna go ahead, kind of take that out. And these are kind of nice because I believe what AirTac Customs has done is kind of cut them into the shape, kind of see where some of these pieces belong, like the 2 short pieces here would belong in the back, and then the longer, of course, at the front. So well, let's go ahead, we'll put these 2 other pieces aside and we'll do the front. The way I go about doing this is that I would use a lighter just to kind of use some heat against it. Honestly, if you're under the age of 14, please have a parent do this or someone that's able to do it that's older, because you don't want to be burning the house down and have your parents blame me. I don't want that. I'm just going to give it just a little bit of space there, as you can see, and I'm going to go ahead and light that baby up. I'm not going to do it too much, but just enough so that way it does kind of separate itself a little bit onto the front there and kind of melts over it so it doesn't fall out. Kind of creates a little bit of a wedge over that so it doesn't fall out. You can see that it's coming out very flush and nice than it did before. Now that we got it nice and secure, pretty flush and clean on itself, I'm gonna go ahead and actually do the back here. Just remember to take your time with it and just don't go too crazy. and you want to avoid melting the top parts if possible. All right, so now that everything is nice and flush, we have everything all set up right there for the sights. You can kind of see it's gonna look pretty nice there. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the upper receiver just by installing everything here. And the easiest way for me to do this is just kind of flip it upside down and kind of just go from the very back. Otherwise it's not going to fit in if you put it directly in from the side, because obviously the hop up wings are going to get in the way. You always want to go through the back and just kind of guide your way in upper receiver, and just go ahead and push it all the way through. And there you go. Awesome. And there you have it. You can see that I'm creating a little bit of tension here. You see that the inner barrel is coming out from the front, and that the hop up is at the window on both sides, so that way you have some time to adjust that. And there you have it. This is the complete upper receiver setup that we're going to be using, and this is going to be part 1 of the entire video series that we're going to do for this entire build. Until next time, guys, I'll see you on part 2 of this entire build series.